So I am a pro bodybuilder, women's physique, and I decided to switch to CrossFit earlier this year and came up with this crazy human experiment idea of doing both performance-based CrossFit at the same time as doing aesthetic training for bodybuilding at the same time, and do the open and a show and see if it could be done, because I don't think it's ever been done. So.
Okay. So just an overview of just your experiences. How was that? Without going into a lot of detail, just overall, what was that journey like?
It was a lot of learning. I had to, I started out with an initial plan of what I thought, like my cuts, I did a 12-week prep. And as my training for CrossFit and bodybuilding started to blend together, I realized I had to do some modifications as far as my diet, my training, cardio, recovery. So it was definitely a day-by-day learning experience, figuring out how to mesh the two together.
And where did the inspiration for the human experiment come from?
So my inspiration came from, both bodybuilding and CrossFit are two totally different worlds. And I once I joined the CrossFit community and, got involved in that positivity and already having experience in bodybuilding, I loved both, and I didn't want to have to choose one or the other. I wanted to say, you know what? I wonder if both can be done, and if so, how can it be done? Because I want to be able to enjoy both. And I don't want bodybuilders and CrossFitters to be at odds with each other. I want, we're all fitness-based. I want to say that we can do both. CrossFitters can do bodybuilding, bodybuilding can do CrossFit, and we can all just learn and grow from each other.
So has your deciding to pursue a bachelor's at Mason contributed at all to trying to understand the science between what you're doing in bodybuilding and CrossFit?
Yes. So I am a senior at George Mason studying kinesiology, and my minor's in coaching. And the more I learn about the physiological adaptations of the body, the more I wanted to put those to the test and see how I could elicit those responses and how I could use that information and education to be able to implement this plan and this goal that I had.
And now that you're trying to document and to share what you've done and what you've experienced, what's your motivation for doing this in terms of your audience and your...
My motivation for sharing this is I've gotten a lot of messages and feedback about people wanting to be an aesthetic athlete. They want to be able to perform functionally but look good at the same time. So I want to be able to say that, you know what, I know how to do it because I've done it, so that I can help you if you want to be the aesthetic athlete. I want to be able, bodybuilders aren't athletes, in my opinion. But I wanted to show that they can be if they adapt their training differently. So I want to share with everyone that you can modify your training. You don't have to stick to the same cookie cutter bodybuilder isolation plan or CrossFit functional plan. You can get positives from both and turn out into be a well-conditioned, symmetrical, functional athlete.
So is this program of the athletic athlete designed more for the novice bodybuilder or CrossFitter? Or could this be used for the seasoned pro?
Oh, I think it can be used for both. I think both can benefit from it. I'm novice CrossFitter. I'm less than a year under my belt with CrossFit, and I'm still competing in the Open. And I did the Open for my first time in March of this year, and I placed top 10% in the world, and that's my goal this time around. I have 2 more workout Opens to do, and I just want to be able to show other people they can do it too. I'm a seasoned bodybuilder competitor and a novice CrossFitter, so it's for everyone.
So what are the core pillars of what you did?
The core pillars would definitely be my workout training, weightlifting modifications. I had to adapt my recovery methods through this 12-week experiment, and nutrition. All of them I definitely had to manipulate and train on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis, to be able to perform and do both.
So what would be a brief synopsis of your workout pillar, what was similar to bodybuilding and what makes it unique to what you did this time?
My meat and potatoes, my workout was CrossFit. I did Olympic lifts and power lifts, gymnastics, and a very high intense cardio. And then I ended up blending in as I got closer to the bodybuilding show. Some steady state cardio was my recovery. So I definitely trained to failure for, muscle size and density for bodybuilding, but also that worked for CrossFit because I added size and functionality. So they both definitely work together in a few different areas.
So there's a general belief in bodybuilding that cardio kills muscle, or at least muscle growth, if that's the emphasis. So being that you were trying to train for a bodybuilding physique and figure show, do you feel like, how did you overcome that either misconception or belief in the bodybuilding world that high volume cardio kills muscle gain?
I definitely had to modify my cardio. I started off just high intensity, and as I got leaner, I had to modify my diet on days that I did higher intensity because I would experience muscle loss, and I started gradually incorporating more steady state at like a heart rate around 135, 145 to burn calories but not waste any muscle. That was definitely something I did come across, was losing muscle during cardio.
So obviously came in first for your physique and bodybuilding world. So do you feel like the hybrid approach that you took was actually beneficial to what you were doing, or could you have achieved a better physique and bodybuilding performance if you weren't doing the cardio component throughout the entire workout?
Hands down, what I did brought my best look to date. I've never had such dense, nice full muscle bellies with, aesthetics. Like I still had the biceps, the triceps, the shoulder caps, the wider lats. It blending both of them brought me to a new level of conditioning and musculature that I would have never achieved just training bodybuilding, like isolation every day.
So for your more knowledgeable audience, obviously hypertrophy is where you're developing and growing size, and part of that component is bringing blood to the muscle. So by doing your metabolic work through CrossFit, you're bringing more blood to the muscle. So maybe with your accessory work, could that help you actually pump up those areas? Yes,
I definitely think, like I said, my meat and potatoes was like the CrossFit lifts, and then I would do some accessory work. After I did my CrossFit programming, I would do a little bit of aesthetic training, working on my lats, working on my delts, in order to achieve that full aesthetic, athletic look.
Okay, so for your second pillar, you were saying that you were approaching recovery differently. What did you do differently this time around?
I noticed with the high intensity training and Olympic lifts that I was doing, I definitely had to incorporate a lot more recovery. Bodybuilding, I recovered really quick, but CrossFit I didn't. So the closer I got to the show, my recovery time for CrossFit increased, and bodybuilding it stayed the same. And I had to implement, I did infrared sauna, I did cryotherapy, compression therapy. I did blood flow restriction when I did cardio on my arms and legs, which studies have shown to help increase circulation and help blood flow, which in the long run definitely helped me flush out my system. There was definitely I had to take more naps and full rest days as the show got closer. I also, one of the best things that I did was yoga. That definitely balanced me out. I did like heated vinyasa yoga along with restorative, and hands down that made me more mobile, helped my recovery, helped drain my lymphatic system. I mean, it was hands down yoga. If you don't do it, you need to do it.
How many hours of rest were you attempting to get each night?
I strived. I aimed for at least 8 hours every night. Most nights I got 7, but I would at least go to bed and have 8 hours of rest in bed at night. And then about 3 weeks out from the show, whatnot, at least 4 days a week, I took a 30-minute nap.
So to build on the getting enough rest, recovery. Obviously, you had a very structured routine. So how important was following a set routine for your recovery?
Following the set routine was absolutely necessary. If I do, was like 2 or 3 days where it was the first 20.1 and 20.2, which was 2 weeks out. I performed it 2 weeks out and 1 week out from the show. And I mean, those workouts wrecked me because I was so depleted. It took me 4 to 5 days to recover and be able to not be sore and inflamed. So I had to do compression socks to drain my legs, and I would elevate my bed at night, so I would sleep at a decline to help blood flow in the parasympathetic system. I mean, it was completely different from just standard bodybuilding.
For those in your audience that don't know what parasympathetic means, can you give a brief definition?
So that would be like rest and digest. That is what, brings your heart rate down, opens your blood vessels so that you can pass nutrients through your body, and just your body rests and digests. That's what it's focused on.
So a lot of people obviously know about DOMS, the delayed onset muscle, where you feel soreness, and that can compound. Obviously, I think you said in your post you were working out sometimes 4 times a day. And so one component that I think people overlook when you're working in bodybuilding, CrossFit, sports, is the mental component. So how did the psychological aspect work in terms of dealing with DOMS and soreness and aches and pains, and how did you overcome that?
That is just pushing through. That's kind of just digging deep and finding, that deep dark place in yourself where you're like, I can do this. I haven't come this far to just come this far. Like my body is a wonderful piece of life, and if I rest and treat it great, it's gonna perform. And so then I simply just told myself, like, every morning when I started getting tired and fatigued, 1 day at a time. Get through today, focus on today. Don't worry about yesterday's workout because that's over. And don't worry about tomorrow's workout because it hasn't happened yet. Just focus on today and do your best that I could bring that day, whether, my best is going to vary every day, but just that day, just do my absolute what I can. And that, that's all I can ask for. And
then your third pillar of diets and supplementation. What can you give us overview of that?
So I started very high calorie. I mean, I was able to keep almond butter, which is my favorite thing ever, into my diet. I kept that in until about 12 days out from the show. And I had to manipulate on days that I was overly exerted or recovered and sore, add a few extra calories. I manipulated my timing of my meals on days that I had to do the open, so I had more glucose available for energy. And then on days where I was, more focused on bodybuilder things, I cut my carbs way down because I didn't necessarily need them. I would do higher fats. So I just every day kind of manipulate what I would eat and consume based on how I was feeling, looking, and what I needed of my body to perform that day.
Were you following a set routine, like 6 to 8 meals a day, or were you following 3 large meals? Were you doing the fits your macros? Like, what particular system, or did you invent your own?
I did 6 meals a day. 6 meals a day, no more, no less. Didn't matter how long the day was or how short it was. 6 meals, timed like about 2.5 to 3 hours apart.
Okay. Supplementation is obviously a big hot topic now of what is necessary, what is an unfair advantage. So, like, what kind of things did you take that helped you get to where you got?
Coffee. I use coffee. I use casein protein. I would use like a Hydro Whey, not every day, but a few days. And I also used more of a holistic, natural supplementation. I relied a lot on like mushrooms, like cordyceps and red reishi and pro and prebiotics. I do have asthma, so when I train high intensity, my asthma gets a lot worse. So I use bovine liver. I used bovine heart, all that that definitely helped me push through with asthma. Beetroots for a natural oxide booster and vasodilation. I mean, I definitely relied on out of the box supplements to enhance my performance and help my asthma, and they worked. Which I've done like VO2 tests during this to kind of see, before and after and during what my AMA was, and I did, RMR and DEXA scans, all which that information was vital in order for me to plan out, what I was doing wrong or right, and get to where I was.
So for those people in the audience that don't know the alphabet soup she just said with the RMR and the AMA and DEXA, can you elaborate for those people?
So the RMR is a resting metabolic assessment. It just, you sit in a quiet, dark room for about 20 minutes, and they monitor your O2 intake and CO2. And it tells you how many calories your body uses at rest without doing anything else. And then the AMA was an active metabolic test, so you push yourself as hard and as fast as you can. I did the treadmill, and it monitors your O2 and CO2, and it tells you kind of like your max cardiovascular capacity. And the DEXA scan, that is considered the gold standard for body composition. So it measures lean tissue, body fat, bone density, skeletal muscle, lean mass. It's a plethora of information, so I can see exactly how much of my body is made up of what kind of tissue.
So a lot of people out there probably have a special weight scale at home, or the electroimpedance handheld devices that they use to kind of monitor their body fat. How does the DEXA compare in your opinion, and can both exist, or do you need to really adopt the DEXA?
DEXA is the most accurate. The like the in-body and like the gym ones where the BIAs where you hold the handheld sensor and it tells you you can use as a kind of a guideline to see where you're at, but it's not accurate. So I wouldn't, for this experiment, I needed the most detailed information I could. So for the regular person, yeah, that's great. You can use it at the same time and in the same place every day in order to, kind of track your progress. But I wanted in between the lines detail. I wanted to know exactly what was happening to my body during performance and aesthetic training. So that's why I went with the DEXA. Moving forward, I can use this information, and I wouldn't need, clients or somebody else to go to the extreme that I did, because I'm more aware of how a body will respond. So, regular home bathroom scale or whatnot would be just fine to kind of to gauge for someone who isn't trying to have science to back what they're doing.
So obviously you were a pro card physique person, and then now you're... Okay, so the question that I presented to you was to your middle school and high school boy and girl that has no experience with bodybuilding or CrossFit. Obviously both movements or both methods are appealing to younger audiences now. So for the human experiment, for you trying to reach that same demographic, how would you recommend that they proceed so they can ensure they're developing a strong base, injury-free?
That's a really good question, Derek. So my answer for that would be start slowly. You don't build Rome in a day. Just don't worry about going hard and heavy right out the gate. Hire a coach or find a role model or a training friend and just start slowly. If you need to build a solid foundation, work on mobility, working on ensure your form is good, and then you can build off of that. So perfect your groundwork, your base work, your setup, your form, your function, like your movement patterns, make sure all your joints have good range of motion, you're mobile, you can get into different positions, and then build on top of that.
And so in a side topic with Ashley, we discussed what the ideal bodybuilder physique look is. So if you're desiring at 13, 14 to one day compete versus the diehard Rich Froning type of trying to do the games, the physique types are different. So you're trying to ensure that you can compete and do well and earn a pro card one day.
Yeah.
What is that physique, and how do you ensure you build that?
Build your back, build your legs. Be careful of building a blocky core, because if you want to compete, the blocky core is not going to hold up. So as you do these heavy lifts, wear a weight belt to support your core, and then work on building your, there's the show me muscles, your chest, your medial lateral delts. So it's aesthetic. So you can, in bodybuilding, you want to have that V-tape or hourglass shape. And in CrossFit, they, very trap and core dominant. So, work on both. That's why programming for this is going to be so important, so that you don't overdevelop one area. You want to make sure you're developing yourself at an even rate.
So you mentioned a lot of supplements you take. Obviously, you're a little more experienced. So for your younger and or newer person coming to the human experiment, what are key things that they should do in terms of diet and supplementations that are must-haves if they're limited in budget or limited in parent support?
Limited in budget and parent support, you can't go wrong with eating whole, clean foods. I stay away from anything that's fast food or packaged or preserved. So I say just, no fried foods. Eat healthy, clean, good organic from the ground food, and you don't even need to supplement with protein as long as you're getting enough from your chicken and your eggs and your steak, and drink plenty of water. And if I had to give one supplement that I swear by, it's pro and prebiotics, because if you can keep your digestive system in check and functioning properly, then it will. That is the nucleus, the most important part, because then that's going to feed and take care of the rest of yourself. So those are the two. They're cheap. You can do apple cider vinegar for that. So you can be on a budget and still be able to supplement things that you need.
And as we're coming into the final approach for the pulling it all together, obviously for your human experiment, you're doing 4 workouts a day, you were doing some of your recovery stuff, you're doing different testing. So for other people, there's a lot of temptations there's a McDonald's everywhere, you have social things. How do you manage and juggle your desire to try the human experiment on yourself versus your friends pulling you to go play Xbox or...
It's something you have to want to do it. If you're not motivated to do it, then it's not going to work for you. But my number one tip would be pack your meals with you. Then you're not tempted to go eat fast food when your blood sugar crashes and you're craving. You're like, oh my God, I'm so hungry, I need to eat something now. And then you go through McDonald's. Plan ahead. Get up in the morning, pack your meals. Put some chicken and potatoes and fruit, and just portion it out. You don't have to go crazy. You can Google and find some great resources on what is good to eat and what's not. Or you can reach out to me and I can help you.
And so, to address these social aspects, how would you recommend someone find like-minded community at any age? So you're not torn between Fortnite and
it's all about balance. You can still have fun and have social things with your friends. You don't have to sacrifice that. You make time for everything. So you get up in the day, you say, okay, I'm going to do my workout now, and then I'm going to go to work, and I'm going to go to school, and then on Saturday I'm going to hang out with my friends. You plan ahead, and you make time for everything. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. You just need to be a little bit more on top of your schedule.
And so what is your guilty pleasure?
I love grapes and fireballs and animal crackers and almond butter.
So any final words to your audience that's either they've been following you along for your road doing this, or they're coming to the human experiment new and they're trying to toy with the idea between this and other methods they've seen?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. Reach out. I'm happy to help anyone, and step outside of your comfort zone. Try something new.
And so, just for people that don't know, what are your handles? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Ashley_Romyak, HROMYAK. I'm on Facebook, and so find me on Instagram, Facebook. I'm there. So if you have any questions, let me know. The human experiment. And then I'm going to have some follow-up videos to go more in detail in the next month. So stay tuned.